Welcome to Depth of Field, an independent filmmaking podcast hosted by Dr. Mike White and Shelby Hagerden, independent filmmakers and industry professionals. Episodes will touch on recent films, the state of the industry, the regional scene in Iowa, Nebraska, and South Dakota, the occasional gear discussion, and interviews. Stay up to date with our current episodes on Spotify and YouTube.
Hello and welcome to the December 2024 episode of the Depth of Field podcast. I'm Dr. Mike White.
And I'm Shelby Hagerden.
On today's episode, we have so much to cover. We have an update on the casting of our new film, The Painter, which we're really excited about. Mm-hmm. We all, Wayne State College, of course, too, of which I teach, and Shelby is an alum from many years ago, is finally getting a dedicated film studio. We're going to talk about that. Netflix is building a new studio in New Jersey. We're going to cover some things on that as well. Mm-hmm. Also, we're just going to touch a little on the Anora intimacy coordination controversy, if you haven't heard anything about that. Also, that It Ends With Us film controversy. And of course, an update on the Film Independent Spirt Award nominations. Our review of the fantastic film, Nosferatu, which will have maybe some spoilers, so be careful. Also an interview with Iowa's own filmmaker, William Rock. So we're really excited about that today. So it's the holiday season.
It is.
It is. And happy holidays to all of our listeners and everybody who's out there. So we're very excited. We've got lots of interesting news and stuff going on. But first of all, we cast our next feature film, The Painter, which is a film that I wrote a while back, and we're getting ready to do it. Well, Shelby, what do you think?
I think we have a good cast. We did 5 days of casting. We saw a lot of people, and we're shooting in July and August. Do you want to tell people what The Painter is about?
The Painter is a story which is about a World War I veteran. This is going to be a period romance.
Of course, following off of our last film, The Cross.
Yes, which it seems that people want to watch those. It's a thing. So with that, it's about a soldier who comes back after the First World War. He has really accelerated PTSD. And he is hired by an estate to come and go ahead and paint some beautiful paintings while he's there. However, while he's there, he's struggling with his PTSD and in trying to overcome it, falls in love with the estate owner's daughter. And it becomes a very complicated, entwined romance. And we have a cast. We're really excited about it. That being said, if you want to learn more about The Painter, you can follow us on Facebook, on our social media page, which has got all kinds of great information about when production is going to take place and stuff, and other things as well, and also some opportunities to support the film that's coming up. Principal photography is going to be done in July and August. But the other big news is at Wayne State College, and Wayne State, until very recently, was one of the only dedicated film programs in this part of the country. We've had a couple other schools pop up with film programs recently.
That are not strictly theory.
Yep. But film production programs. The program at Wayne has done so well that they have decided to give one of the large classrooms on the third floor of Humanities to the film program. That facility is being designed right now. As we speak, they're doing the work right now and will be operational during the spring term. So the Wayne State College film students will be using that this spring to build sets and do other things too. Also, we did want to bring up that if there will be a ribbon cutting ceremony with that, as well as if you're looking at going to film school, there'll be tours and other things of that facility as well coming up as soon as it's completed. So that's going to be coming up shortly.
For sure.
Also, some big news that I want your opinion on. Netflix is building a new studio in New Jersey.
I know. Tell us about it.
Well, Netflix, this is going to be called Netflix Studios at Fort Monmouth, although it's actually in Oceanport, New Jersey. I have no idea where that's at. I'm not an East Coast person, but it borders Eatontown. So that's really what we know about it. I know there was a little bit of a bidding situation for this. Netflix won the bid with a $903 million bid. It's a lot of money. But they say it's going to generate between 1,500 and 3,500 jobs. It's going to be a less expensive place to live, obviously, than New York or LA. So there should be a lot, and this is going to be studio production. So I mean, a lot of made for Netflix type things, and this is big for them because having more studios means more production for them as well.
And it's incredibly convenient for New Yorkers.
Well, and there are a lot of studios that don't truly have facilities. For example, like A24, everybody says, we don't A24 studios. They fund films, but those films they don't own studio property, for example. So this is a very big deal. It's going to do a lot, hopefully for the industry and for Netflix as well. Netflix has had some financial challenges in the last few years, but I think strategically this might be a really good move for them.
And I'm hoping too that maybe this will try to get them to do some more independent work, maybe at a smaller budget, especially working maybe more in New Jersey, of like using those tax incentives and putting them to work. So
yeah, and the governor of New Jersey came out and said, hey, this is a film and television state.
Yeah.
And that was a big part of it. There was a really good write-up. Actually, it wasn't even one of the entertainment magazines. It was in one of the New Jersey newspapers. Had some really good stuff on it, some regional things, which was really quite good. I want to talk about the Anora intimacy controversy, and Shelby, I'm going to let you run with that because you've been paying much more attention to that than I.
So Anora was kind of the darling film this year. I believe it won Cannes.
Well, they say it's the favorite to win the Oscar.
Yeah. So very, very important film, directed by Sean Baker. I think we've mentioned it on the film or on the podcast a couple of times. Mickey Madison stars in the film, and Mickey Madison was on Variety's Actors on Actors with Pamela Anderson. Pamela Anderson, as you know, has had...
No stranger to the business.
Yes, no stranger to the business. Up and down career. Very abused by the industry, to be quite frankly. Or to be very frank about that. But... Mickey Madison during that, Pamela Anderson asked if they used an intimacy coordinator on the set of Anora, and Mickey Madison replied with no, they did not use an intimacy coordinator. If you have not seen Anora, it does follow a sex worker, that is who Mickey plays, and she was offered an intimacy coordinator by Sean Baker, but she, with the director Sean and her co-lead, decided against having an intimacy coordinator on set. I don't think this would have gone as big as it had, but considering she said this to Pamela Anderson, who has not had a very good experience with the industry and would have definitely benefited from intimacy coordinators in the 90s. It was a bit of a shock, I think. And also, considering the intimacy coordinators right now, and we've had intimacy coordinators and violence coordinators, choreographers on here, and talk about the benefits of having them on a set. It's very surprising to see something of this kind of, like, as sexual as this film is, for them not to use an intimacy coordinator by default.
And it's been interesting to see the response of people online of how people feel about this.
There's a lot of outrage.
There is, and there are some people who've also come to the defense of the filmmakers.
Yes.
For me, when I look at this, and I'm not belittling the experience of the actors in any way, but something that is like, from the standpoint of liability as a filmmaker, my God, I cannot imagine doing something like this without everybody having the intimacy coordinator, signing off on what's safe. The liability aspect of this is so big.
Great.
It freaks me out when I think about it.
As a producer, it made me sick to my stomach when I heard her say that. Because
Yeah.
that is a tremendous amount of work on the line with that.
I mean, we could honestly...
Even if nothing happened, it's just, it is good to have a precautionary measure. And the other thing with this is it's not just about the actors, and it's not just about the director. And I think that's being swept up in this conversation of, oh, well, the actors felt comfortable. Okay, we know 2 actors felt comfortable. We know the director felt comfortable. What about the other actors, and what about all the people on that set?
Yeah.
Because we don't know if crew felt comfortable. There was an intimacy coordinator that talked about it recently, right after that came out. I think Variety did an interview with her. And she mentioned that, oftentimes there's a lot of cinematographers that have had to sit there and shoot assault. And they weren't able to say anything. And having an intimacy coordinator there would have prevented that. So the problem is even if the actors are comfortable with it, even if the director is comfortable with it, your crew might not be. So it's better to just include intimacy coordinators from the get-go and just hope that, they're just able to be involved as much as they need to be, as much as the actors need to be, as much as the crew needs them to be, but just have them there from the start, as opposed to making this into something that has the potential to be very dangerous.
And I think it's a really good conversation for people to be having that work in the business. I think, too, I know of at least 2 professors. I didn't get a chance because of the courses I was teaching this term, but I know that there at least of a couple of schools that had this discussion in their classes about the ethics of this and what is, and what is probably proper practice and some other things too. So be safe out there, guys.
Yes.
And keep your actors safe, man. Keep your actors safe and your crew safe and everybody feeling good about the production, because, if people don't feel good about it, then we failed.
Agreed.
Yeah. So that's cool. Well,
go ahead.
On another topic.
Yeah, and this goes straight into the next one.
It Ends With Us. Another picture has a controversy. This was kind of a failed box office film.
It didn't fail. It's had an extreme amount of controversy.
It didn't have the kind of yield they expected.
It had a lot of controversy around it from the get-go.
The marketing was messed up.
Part of this, to give background, Blake Lively was somewhat canceled. I don't want to say canceled, but
this was kind of a bad romance type film.
Well, okay, It Ends With Us has controversy. The book does. It's based on a book. It's an adaptation. It Ends With Us has a little bit of controversy around it, saying that it kind of glorifies and romanticizes abuse in a relationship. I have not read the book, but from what I have read about the book and what other people have said about the book is that you don't really realize that it's an abusive situation until like halfway through. And so you think you're going to get a romance, and then all of a sudden you're kind of hit in the face with maybe some potentially very triggering content for people. So It Ends With Us. The film comes out. A lot of people did not know that this was a film about abuse. It's kind of marketed as kind of Hallmarky, very light. It's not really marketed as an abuse film. And also during the press junkets and during the press run, Blake Lively also treated it as being kind of a light film. It's the wear your florals thing where that comes from, of wear your florals and bring your girls out. It's a great time. But without really mentioning the fact that this is a film about partner and domestic abuse. So that already had quite a bit of controversy coming up. People were talking about Blake Lively's conduct on set beyond It Ends With Us, her conduct with journalists. And it was really turning into a smear campaign against Blake Lively. But was leaving Justin Baldoni largely unscathed. Justin Baldoni, so Blake Lively starred in the film along with Justin Baldoni. He starred in the film along with her, played the romantic and abusive co-lead, and then also directed the film. Justin Baldoni now has been hit with allegations from Blake Lively of sexual harassment, and also a defamation charge for the smear campaign against her to destroy her career.
And this was fairly effective on Baldoni's part.
Yes.
Because Blake Lively has had some reputation issues.
Yes.
Being difficult to work with and other things as well.
It was easy for them to grab things from the past and utilize it. And also just really easy to edit things and make Blake Lively seem like a monster throughout this, which is not fair. And obviously, if you go back and you look at what Blake and some of the other people on that set have mentioned about Justin Baldoni, considering his conduct, their sexual harassment, talking about prior sexual encounters that he's had, including some that were not consensual. People being just genuinely scared for Blake to be in the same room with him alone. And also the fact that they did not have an intimacy coordinator until about halfway through, when Blake was so fed up with the behavior that finally she brought one on herself. This can happen if you have a director and actor together. This is somebody that is controlling the set, and not just controlling the set via the camera, but also controlling the set through their acting.
Well, both of these cases are ethical conversations that filmmakers need to be having all the time. And I think it's really important. I mean, of course, until everything comes through the courts, these things are alleged, of course.
It is all alleged.
But I think especially in a case like this one, when we take a look at like Baldoni in this case, there's some pretty clear misconduct here.
Yeah.
And then also too, again, there is, and I don't mean to stick with it, but Blake Lively does have a reputation of being very difficult to work with. Yeah. That's been something people have talked about for a really long time. So it's sticky.
What's unfortunate coming out of this is because of the nature of the defamation case, it's pointing towards, and I'm not saying I agree with this, but the way that they are constructing it and the way Baldoni's team is constructing it is that this is Blake just trying to get her career back on track. That it is an attention-grabbing
after a weak film
stunt after a weak film and after people coming after her career. And her as a person, her personal life as well. And to be really honest, they wrapped up Ryan Reynolds in a lot of this too. He's gotten a lot of heat recently, which is very new.
Saying that he's protecting her.
So there's a lot in there because it's a defamation case. That is what they're saying, is because, okay, well, this has to do with your career. It doesn't have to do with the fact that this was sexual harassment, even though there is a sexual harassment charge in this. What their teams are doing. It's unfortunate because, Blake is being put in a really, really unfortunate position with this because no matter what, it's not putting her in a good light because of the nature of the case and what's going on for her, which is really, really unfortunate because obviously she has suffered through quite a bit during the making of this film. And,
It'll be interesting to see what unfolds.
It will be very interesting.
Keep an eye on it.
So we will provide updates as that comes to light, but follow along with it. It's very interesting. And anybody who is on set, if you are having, if there is nudity, if there is violence, if there is, sex scenes, please involve an intimacy coordinator and please be respectful of everyone on set and be careful. Proceed with caution and just be kind to each other. It's very easy to just be kind.
So our next news is the Independent, or FI, Film Independent. They have the Independent Spirt Awards, which is going to be coming up. We're very excited. This, to me, is the biggest award show of the year. We are not going to cover those films right now. We're going to cover those in a later episode.
Yep.
As mentioned before, Shelby and I have decided that we would do one episode a month through the academic year because I'm very busy at UCLA right now, in their professional program. So I just, honestly, guys, I can't do 2 episodes a month. It's too hard.
But it'll be great, though, when we cover this in January. So that way, hopefully, you guys can catch some of the movies that are going to be up for FI. So it's for the Spirit Awards.
Yes.
We're excited, though, because this is kind of like, this is our
Oscar night.
Yeah.
80 Bryant, formerly of SNL, so funny, is going to be hosting again this year. She's absolutely fantastic. It's going to be February 22nd. It usually starts mid-afternoon, like some years 2 or 3 o'clock, but I think this year it's 2.
It's 2 Pacific time.
2 Pacific, yep. And then it's going to be streaming on YouTube and their other social media platforms, so it should be absolutely fantastic.
Easy to access. Please watch and support the movies. One time I think I was watching it on YouTube and there were 50 people there, so please watch. It's good for them. So
I am Film Independent.
I am Film Independent.
Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about our review. We on Christmas Day got to see Nosferatu by Robert Eggers. It was Shelby and I and my 2 daughters and my eldest daughter Lauren's boyfriend all went to see it. We loved the picture.
We did.
Absolutely. We're going to go through a bunch of this stuff. I know Shelby's got a million ideas. I listened to at least 2 podcasts and at least 2 interviews about the film prior. I've been following it all along. I think one of the most poignant things is someone said, this is a lot more than a horror movie.
Yes.
This is an art film. It's been described as a gothic romantic horror picture. It has really overt themes of desire and oppression and guilt. It's a fantastic picture. I mean, and when I say that, it's not just as a genre. It's not just a great horror picture. It's just a great picture, just period. Very, very good.
And it's great in a million different ways, which we'll get into.
Obviously, this is greatly, well, a reimagining basically of the original German film by F.W. Murnau from 1922. This is really the pinnacle of German expressionism. This film was made because of Eggers' absolute love for this film.
And the writing choices, I think, come off clear in this. The clarity of the film is really nice, honestly, if you would watch it with Nosferatu, because obviously Nosferatu is a silent film, the original. So if you kind of paired this, I think it would be helpful for modern audiences to really understand the, what is moving these characters forward.
Even if you didn't like the story, it's so beautifully shot.
Oh,
and the production design is absolutely fantastic. Yeah. It is beautiful to look at. This film was shot by Jaron Blanche. And he's done they've been working together. Eggers and he have worked together at least on 3 films, possibly all 4 films.
I think all 4.
Is it all 4?
I
yeah,
think so.
Very good. And this was shot on the RE-Cam LT. That's a 35 millimeter film celluloid camera, Super 35 format. They shot this with Panavision ultra high speed lenses, Bausch and Lomb Balters, as well as some Pathé Tessar lenses. And these are all fantastic stuff. There's some things in this film I can't figure out how they did. There's one particular scene in an inn.
In the tavern.
Yeah.
In Bohemia.
Where it's like crazy, very blue, and then you'll cross like candlelight and it becomes like a golden yellow. I mean, the extreme color differential.
Yeah.
I can't figure it out. I look at it and I'm like, is this chemical? Is this digital? Is it special effect? It's pretty profound when you look at it. I mean,
and you can't figure out how it's done.
Well, yeah. And I'm someone who teaches film, and I've got a pretty discriminating eye because I'm looking at stuff all the time, and I'm baffled by it. That one scene, I sat there baffled by how that looks and how it's shot.
It's interesting because it is. What I really liked about it is that you can tell that Eggers looked at the tintype coloring for the original. And the color in the inn matches the yellow that is used in the tintype. And it is all done with supposedly just ambient lighting.
And those scenes are crazy. We're going to talk about those a little bit more.
Yeah.
But something he had mentioned in one of the interviews, and I would suggest I listened to there are 2 interviews you should listen to. The Directors Guild of America interview, which is a short one, it's less than 30 minutes. Outstanding good. There's also another interview, which is slightly longer, Film at Lincoln Center, after his New York screening of the film. Both interviews are fantastic and have a lot of introspection into the production of this film. So as a filmmaker, both of those you should be probably, listening to.
And Eggers is really wonderful to listen to. He has such a love for cinema. He's lovely to listen to.
I want to talk about the production design.
Yeah, me too.
So we were baffled. We knew that they shot much of this in the Czech Republic. which is great. Czech Republic has people don't think about it, but the Czech Republic has very strong film. Very, very, very strong film. And
my Emerson College, where I got my master's, they have a deal in the Czech Republic.
Yeah,
they go and they
with
shoot.
the Czech Republic.
So it's really, really beautiful to go and for people to go and film there.
So the wides were shot of this fantastic castle in the Czech Republic that was this inspirational thing, which is awesome. And he talks about that kind of at length. But all of the sets, and we were convinced after watching this, the sets were actually an abandoned castle, but they were not. These were all constructed. So the set design is fantastic.
Outstanding.
Yeah, and how all that stuff is done. And the shot compositions are so thought out. Shelby leaned over to me and said, I think this is storyboarded.
Well, I didn't say it was storyboarded. I said it was storyboarded and then put into an animatic. Because if the way that the film is shot it's shot so precisely that it's very, very difficult to, if you were just to put those things together in the edit afterwards, it wouldn't work together. The movement of the film feels like this was so meticulously planned out, which it was. They've been working on this thing for 10 years. So
there's a ton of Technicrane shooting in there, a lot of crane operated stuff, and it's really, really great.
It's very smart.
Yeah, it's really great. When we looked at I think one of the most impressive parts of the film for me was on the one of the characters takes a journey to the character Thomas takes a journey to Transylvania, basically, in the film. And when he does this, he goes through Bohemia, right? And in the film, he meets Romanians, Bohemians in this, and the portrayal of these characters is so wonderful. It's like the first time I've ever seen such a rich portrayal of that.
Yeah.
And it's so cool how they do the folklore and stuff is awesome.
To see the Bohemians and then the Romani people in this state is really interesting. And it's very respectfully done, especially within the folklore. I mean, it really plays into okay, what were the beliefs? It's a very kind portrayal, but really, really dives into what the folklore around those people are. And
there's a really cool cultural richness in there, and actually there's some dead language in the film that was resurrected. So when Count Orlok is kind of using his sorcery, they actually use this dead language, which is terribly creepy, combined with Skarsgård's voice.
Yeah.
You talk about the voice.
Okay, we're gonna skip by a couple of things. We're gonna talk about the design of Count Orlok. Okay, I want you to go in, if you're listening to this and you haven't seen Nosferatu, the new one, I want you to skip by this and then come back to it. But the design for Count Orlok is beautifully done. They did it based on Vlad the Impaler. So it's a little bit more realistic than the original.
So it's not that white kind of smooth, creepy.
He's dead.
He's dead. It's basically a corpse that is Vlad the Impaler. And it looks like...
And it's a lot... I know that Eggers...
a dead Eastern European count.
And the thing is I know Eggers...
And he's dressed in furs and stuff. It's bizarre.
And it makes him giant. Because Bill Skarsgård is already a pretty tall man. But with the furs, with the hats, it's just this giant looming figure. And it's really interesting because Eggers, who has talked about this film and all of his others, it's not based on historical accuracy. We don't care about historical accuracy, which I respect Eggers for, and it works with his films, right?
Yeah. He
but
uses
to be
it
really
in
honest,
service of the story.
But to be really honest, though, the design of Count Orlok in this is probably one of the more historically accurate portrayals of a vampire from that age.
Or what people would believe.
What they would have believed, because it would have been a more zombie-esque portrayal, because it really was people being resurrected from the dead. Mm-hmm. It's not just, we're just kind of creepy and gross. It's like a resurrection. part of this, though, was Bill Skarsgård's voice.
Which is his actual voice.
His actual voice turned up.
No voice processing used. He trained with an opera singer to get his voice to sound a certain way.
And it is terrifying.
It's terrifying. And all they did is they just turned it up. They just amplified it. That's it. That's his natural voice with no other processing to get that. And there's breathing, and it's upsetting.
And the breathing itself was written into the script.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've seen the film and you're listening to this after, you'll know that there's this really just what feels like lungs that have been punctured, like just breathing. It's just this heavy, disgusting kind of gross feeling that you get from it. And it was all written in, which is really fascinating.
And that fits in that there's very little CGI work. It's all pretty much practical stuff. Even the rats, they had 5,000 rats on set. Mm-hmm. And there's a few scenes that you have characters that are shaking rats off of their pants.
And the rats are everywhere.
They're live rats. It's really troubling to watch. It's awesome. It just absolutely looks fantastic. And that combined with the wonderful lighting in the film that integrates it and kind of holds it all together. It's really great.
And the makeup,
it's unreal.
The prosthetics, for a lot of that, I mean, for that not to be CGI it's
impressive.
Outstanding. It's outstanding work.
It's really, really impressive. And the story is not really a new story. The story is reimagining of the actual Nosferatu film, and in many ways plays an homage to it. There are things that they did not change, of course, like Anora has the long, creepy Max Schreck fingernails that they have in the original film. The shadows, the ominous shadows that you would see in German Expressionist film, reaching across things are really good.
However, far more stairwells.
A lot more stairwells, which is much more like German Expressionist films, like The Cabinet of Dr. Kilgari.
Yeah.
But
it works. It works incredibly well.
It's really good.
And the use of the shadow of the hand in all of it, of letting that kind of be a lead for us, is really interesting.
It's
I'm
terrific.
glad that they did that.
It's absolutely terrific.
There are some things in the film that were expanded upon. There's a little bit of lore that's been expanded, which I think is helpful for modern audiences. And it's also very helpful in a film that's not silent, where you can play with a little bit more, have a little more fun with the characters. I loved it.
I think it's a fantastic film. I loved the film. I'm not going to give away the ending, but when I saw this film, I immediately thought there might be some criticism from people who like more of the traditional style horror films. If you're looking for the type of films like, they're going to have this huge fight with the that's not it. This is a more cerebral film.
It's not a slasher.
No, it's a psychological film, and you're not going to have, even like the Bram Stoker Dracula film, made by Coppola. You're not going to have that fighting the creature type thing.
It's also something too. Some of the criticism that it's received is that it's a little sexual, at times, that it's a little perverse.
People don't get it.
I disagree with that. I really don't. There's really just one sex scene in it.
It's brief.
It's brief. But I think a lot of people are reading into some of the dialogue, some of the scenes, the possession, the essence of a man possessing a woman, reading into some things that maybe innately aren't quite there. And I think obviously there are some sexual themes in it, but I don't think it is to the point that people want to sensationalize it.
Well, and there's some literary things here too you have to remember. So one of the things we have to remember too is that the sucking of the blood, and that the sex and and violence are so close to each other. I mean, there are times where you're like, is this person having sex? Are they being bitten? You know what I mean? It's very confusing at times.
The essence of sucking blood. I mean, it's like
Yeah, those are.
It's kind of like an innately
Yeah,
sexual thing.
it's a
But
primal thing
yeah.
that they have there.
But I think though that people need to spend a little bit more time with the film before making such harsh criticisms of something. I think it's more nuanced than just, oh, this is a sexy movie or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
It's a great film.
For me, 5 out of 5 stars. I love it.
100%. Yeah.
Absolutely terrific film.
I'm excited to be going into the next year with Nosferatu kicking things off for me.
And we knew it would be good. I mean, coming into it, The Lighthouse, The Witch, those are fantastic pictures. So we knew that he would come out swinging. He's a young guy, too. He's in his 40s.
41 years old.
Man, whew, amazing.
I know.
So fantastic.
And for him to have been working on this for 10 years. Yeah. This was supposed to be his second film.
Go see it.
Yeah.
All right.
So
we're going to move on to our next segment. Okay, on the next segment of the Depth of Field podcast, we have our friend William Rock from the Des Moines area, who's got a fantastic new feature coming out called Jury of Her Peers. And first of all, Will, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
I remember the last time we got together, Shelby and I were in Des Moines to go see the Psychedelic Furs with our good friend Jude Rollins.
That's right.
His interview 2 episodes back.
2 episodes back, yeah. And we got there and we went to have, what did we want? We went to have coffee or someplace.
We just wanted to get like a croissant.
Yeah, it was really fun. But I remember it was a really crazy day because we had someone who was like voyeuristically listening to our conversation from the next table. It was really funny.
It was fun. Yeah, we're at this little coffee shop at Valley West Mall, and it was just us 3 and then one other person at another table, and they were totally listening to our conversation, and they're like, "Are you movie stars? I found you on IMDb."
He was Googling us like live time. Just there. Yeah. He had to sign autographs. It was odd.
It was very weird. Yeah, I was like, man, people in Des Moines need to get out more.
I know.
Yeah, gee whiz.
They do. They really do. Well, we're trying to work on that. We're trying to get them stuff to go out and see. So
exactly.
Well, that brings us to the big topic, Jury of Our Peers. I know we have to talk about it a little, and we're crazy excited about it.
It looks beautiful.
Yes. So before we get in too deep, could you tell us what is the story about?
Right. So it is set in 1899, 1900 in rural Iowa. And a woman is accused of murdering her husband. So it's a murder mystery, period piece set in rural Iowa.
So I'd like to, Will, if you can go through a little bit about your background and maybe what led you to this film.
Oh, boy. Sure. Well, the short version, I did quite a bit of acting in college, mostly theater, some film, some indie film.
And where did you go to school?
Iowa State. So I did some theater at Iowa State, and I did some community theater as well in Ames, and then in the Des Moines area, Social Club, Vaudeville Muse, Stage West. So that was good. And I had done some writing as well. I did some writing in college, but nothing too serious. My roommates and I were going to make an internet sitcom back when internet sitcoms were like the thing. And I actually wrote 3 or 4 episodes of an internet sitcom, and then we realized none of us had any actual like filmmaking experience. Like, how does this camera work? So that never got off the ground. But I continued writing, and then once I had kids, then doing acting and juggling kids and a full-time job was pretty much impossible. So cut back on that, and pretty much just got into writing, and have stuck with that for a number of years. The script that I wrote immediately prior to Jury of Her Peers, I got to the second round or quarterfinals of Austin Film Festival. And that was the point where I was like, okay, I think I can do this. Like, I have some legitimacy. I'm not a horrible writer anymore. Definitely was when I started. We all are when we start. So not that I'm a great writer now, but at least it's like, okay, I can string a couple scenes together anyway. So I was on the lookout for a film that could be made in Iowa. Like, okay, I can do the writing. Now I need to find the people that can turn it into reality. And the easiest way to do that is to find A smaller cast, contained locations, so minimal cast, minimal locations, to find that premise. And the story for Jerry Pierce kind of fell into my lap by accident, but here I said, okay, now here's a murder mystery, so it's more of a genre piece, which is always appealing to folks, and it has existing IP. Like we have source material which is in public domain, so it's based on a short story that was written in 1917. So all of these things kind of lined up to make. I'm like, this is a project that just has to be brought back to Iowa. Since it's been public domain, a couple of people have done versions of it. Ours is the first attempt to do a feature version of it. The original short story is, I think, not even 10 pages long. So the previous versions of it have all just been short films. The most famous being in 1979, Sally Hackle did about I think the final cut of that is just under 20 minutes long, but that version actually got nominated for Best Short Feature at the Academy Awards in 1979 or 1980. So that's what we're up against. But ours, yeah. So I decided we'll try and make it a feature length version because that hasn't been done before, and bring it back to Iowa because there's been versions of this film before, but none of them in Iowa, which is crazy because that's where it takes place.
That's neat.
Well, we're period filmmakers, I guess, now because we've done one, and I guess and we're really starting to get going now on the Painter. But making period films is tough. So this sounds like a tough film to make. So what were some of the big challenges you had?
Logistics. The biggest thing, just finding locations that would work. Finding costumes. One of the things that I kind of cheat coded this to make, just to add to the urgency of the script itself. The film takes place essentially in real time. It all takes place in one day. So there's basically no costume changes. Some characters take off coats and hats when they come inside and then put them back on when they go outside. But so we really only have one costume for every character. So that helped a lot because period costumes can be a huge expense for a period film. So we cut down that way. We were lucky enough to find a farmhouse that we could use that with minimal effort. We didn't have to do a whole lot dressing. We didn't have to do a whole lot of dressing to the location before we started filming, so that was nice. And we made some connections to folks, the Iowa Carriage Driving Association. So they're a pretty tight-knit group. Once we got in with somebody that was on the board and just like, yeah, I know everyone in Iowa that owns a horse and buggy that's period to what you're going for. So we were able to just leverage folks that we knew for a long time. It took a lot of production work. So my producers did a lot of work and really made a lot of miracles happen. So very excited about that.
That's awesome.
Wow.
I know that it's something that we just finished up was the casting process for the Painter. So I'd love to hear a little bit about kind of what your process was like, especially because I think it's something when you're putting out we're making a period film. It's like, oh my gosh, it's going to be costumes, it's going to be makeup, it's hair. There's a little bit of glamour to it. I think actors get excited about.
Right.
So can you tell us a little bit about your casting process and then the cast that you ended up with?
Yeah. I know I'm super excited for Painter. I saw that you had the casting announcement there, and I'm not as familiar with some of those folks, but the ones that I am, I'm like, they're great. I cheated a little. I don't know if it's cheated is the right word with Jerry Pierce, but I feel like the advantage that I have having had an acting background is that I already knew a lot of actors, and I have already seen them on stage. And for me, I hated the whole cattle call audition process, so I just didn't do auditions for Jerry Pierce. I found the actors that I wanted, and I just hounded them until they agreed to do it, basically. And I think we ended up with an incredible cast. We have folks that have been doing stuff in Iowa for many years and have done really great stuff. I'm really stoked for the people that we've got. I couldn't have asked for a better cast, honestly.
That's so nice, though, because it's something like if you're able to get the people that you really trust, that you're used to, it's like, okay, I know that this person can do this role. I trust them. they're going to be here, they're going to show up, they're going to do it. That's so nice on set, especially when you're working with a period film where there's just an added stressor to it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would say, if I had to put a term to it, I would say I did more of a vetting process than an audition process. Like, I'm going to have to spend, all day, long, stressful days on set with these people. Are they somebody that I want to be? Not only are they, great acting, but can I just spend that much time with them? So just knowing who's good to work with, as well as good in front of the camera, helped a lot.
That's terrific. You've got some good crew on this. You and I had talked a little bit about who was shooting and some of the other stuff that you had going on. Not going to lie, been following the film. The shots look terrific.
Beautiful.
Terrific. So tell us about some of this crew.
Yeah. So the other thing that I did when I said, "Hey, I want to do this," is I knew that we'd have to do it. We're not going to have $1 million budget. So the other thing that I've been involved for the last couple of years, I've been involved in the 48-Hour Film Festival in Des Moines, and I know quite a few of those. There's a bunch of different teams in Des Moines that do it, and I started talking to some of them. I said, "Okay, hey, I'm doing this film. It's a feature film, but I need a crew that can make a good film quickly and cheaply." To be honest, and that's really what 40-Hour Film Festival is. And it's very much like, okay, if something is going wrong with 48-hour film, you have to be able to improv it, right? You can't, okay, it's raining, darn, I guess we come back next weekend. Like, you can't do that. You just have to figure it out. So I started looking into crews, teams that have done that and been good at it. And the name that kept coming up was John Hansen. So I reached out to him, and we met, and he was on board almost immediately, right? He's super excited about the project. And so we met, and we filmed a proof of concept last fall, within a couple weeks of sitting down and talking about it. It's like, okay, yeah, it's a great project. Let's just do it. Let's go. Let's do this. But John has done 40-Hour Film Festival for many years. He actually has won the Des Moines 40-Hour Film Festival multiple times, and in 2005, so if you win your local 48-Hour Film Festival, you go on to the International 48-Hour Film Festival. So in 2005, his team won both the Des Moines, and then went on and actually won the International 40-Hour Film Festival at Filmapalooza in 2005. So we're very lucky to have him on board.
I've never met John. Will, you got to drag him along to something so we can meet him, because we take a lot of pride in kind of knowing everybody, but...
So we haven't met somebody.
You got to drag him along. Maybe there'll be an IMPA thing or something this year. Drag him along, because I really want to meet him, because I'm looking at these shots and they look really, really good. And also, I mean, for the other folks doing period stuff, man, it's cool to be able to get that, and stuff too. And I'd like to match him with our cinematographer for some ideas. I'd love it. So drag him along. Okay.
Yeah, so, well, because we've been talking about these beautiful shots, I think people would like to know, where can they see the film?
And when?
When? Right. Well, we wrapped principal photography December 7th. So we are knee deep in post-production, editing. We did here right before Christmas, we went through the footage, and we're pretty confident. We're confident enough that we don't have to reshoot anything, that we told actors that they could change their hair. Especially the men folk had James Serpento was playing the sheriff, had the delightful little handlebar mustache. As delightful as it is, he was itching to kind of get rid of it. So about 10 days ago, probably a week, 10 days ago, we gave the all clear for folks. We don't need to worry about continuity anymore. So that's good. So we can move forward through editing without having to worry about stop and doing reshoots. So that helps. That moves up our timeline for when we could do a premiere pretty significantly if we're not worrying about reshoots. So editing, our goal is to do an advanced screening sometime in probably mid-late spring late March, early April, somewhere in there in the Des Moines area, and go from there.
That'd be great. And we expect seats
Yeah.
and an invitation, of course. So
Of
we can make
course.
the drive and hang out and be with everybody. We'd love that. So that's going to be great. So you can count on us for that. So,
All right.
yeah. But anyway, the big question is, tell us about your plans for distribution at this point. Do you have anything lined up yet?
I don't. And I would love to pick your brain about that because I know you have experience with that.
Oh, yeah.
For better or for worse, you have experience with that.
Yeah. But, we'll talk about that too. I think actually, Shelby and I have been asked to do some a lecture series for the Iowa Motion Picture Association. So maybe we'll make sure we have that as part of our lecture series so we can do that. That might be kind of cool.
Helpful.
So and everything.
Yeah. I mean, at the moment, we have a lot of folks that are excited about the film.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we have folks that have been, okay, can we do screenings? We'd like to do advanced screenings, at least one, if not two, in the Des Moines area.
Yeah.
My hometown has a lot. And what I've learned about Iowa is we're getting to a point where a lot of the small town or even mid-sized town, their movie theaters are now, if they're still operating, they're essentially a nonprofit. Like the Chamber of Commerce has purchased it and runs it as almost like a public service, like a park or a library. Like we know the town needs this. So starting to reach out to them and just seeing like, hey, this film was done in Iowa. Is this something that folks would be interested in seeing, especially if we can do, some sort of Q&A with folks afterwards, people in person. People love that. We have someone who's, their sister works for the Dubuque Library, and they're interested in sponsoring and showing up there. So we've got a list of folks that are interested in doing these screenings.
Yep.
And then, of course, we'll do the festival route. We've got the list of the festivals that we want to submit to. That I'm sure that can become sort of a chicken and egg thing because the festivals don't like it if you've been in theaters for for a while already. So that's the part that we're piecing together.
We toured first.
You toured first? Okay.
Yeah, we toured. No, I mean, when I say toured first, we toured festivals first.
Yeah, festivals first.
Okay, festival tour first.
Festival
Gotcha.
tour
Okay.
first, and then we went ahead and did that for us, and then that's what we did and everything. But Screen Iowa, man, you need to go to the Screen Iowa, and now EJ Philby has moved up, and EJ is now the new. I guess we don't call him the film committee.
Did she?
Officer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I missed that. I knew that Liz had retired, and I missed that EJ had gotten. So that's good. Yeah.
And we're excited about that because we used to see EJ on the road all the time. So that's great news. And Screen Iowa, man, we are big advocates of Screen Iowa. They were a huge part of the success of our film. I mean, and we were on the road a lot touring we had so much fun.
We did the in-person.
You sold out a lot of theaters for The Cross.
Yeah.
Oh, The Cross was ridiculous. And I think we have another booking pending. So, I mean, even
Nice.
now, and that film's been distributed and it's out. You know what I mean?
For like a year almost.
Yeah.
For like a year. So we're going to probably get one more screening out on that. And then I think Shelby and I are like, we're getting ready now to, go. And this isn't about us, but we're getting really deep into the painter now. So that's the next thing.
Yeah, I mean, you do at some point. You reach with the film, that production phase. You just meet that critical mass where it's like we can't stop. This ball is rolling. This is happening now.
Yeah, it went off like a bomb, kind of. But you know how that goes, how that is, and everything. I'm very envious of your ability to cast your film the way that you did. To be able to do that, because believe me, it was 5 days and stuff like that. And, I mean, we do the best we can. And stuff.
Well, it's great that you had that much interest in it. I mean, I think it really speaks to how much talent there is out there in Iowa. And the more that we can do to get those folks in front of the camera and get that experience and get those folks out there and get their talent out there. One of the goals.
I had a big conversation about that when I was in Austin, because they're like, oh yeah, where are you from? It's like, oh yeah, I'm based in Iowa right now. And like, oh, there's not a lot going on in Iowa. It's like, no, there's so much happening.
There
There's
really
so much
is.
talent
Yeah.
in your region, in Iowa, Nebraska. There's so much good talent. There's so many actors.
And you can help the
And,
actors. You know
yeah,
what I
it's
mean?
like, no, you can cast here. I had one gal, she was talking to me about coming and like shooting in the area. She's like, oh, but would there be able to like find talent there? It's like, oh yeah, there's so much talent here. The actors are
Right.
here and they're hungry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would completely agree with that. Yeah. So.
Well, Will, I have a question.
Yes.
Where can people learn more about the film? Can they follow it on social media?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So we're on Facebook. We do have a website, and that has the link to Facebook, IMDb. We're working on the Instagram page as well. So all the socials will be linked from the website, and we'll have updates there as we get announcing to advanced screenings and festivals. Of course, that'll be the main source for information.
That'd be great. Well, it's awesome. We got to get together again and hang out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looking forward to it and everything. So, guys, we're going to see you next month on the next episode of the Depth of Field podcast. You can find us on all of your platforms, but we are primarily on YouTube, so you can see us in all places. So we hope everybody has a really happy new year, and if you haven't already, we hope your holidays have been fantastic. And we will see you next time. I'm Dr. Mike White,
And I am Shelby Hagerden.
and this is the Depth of Field podcast.
Thank you for listening to Depth of Field, and check us out on YouTube and Spotify, where we post new episodes every 2 weeks.